Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I am so excited today. We are welcoming a rock star to the Turmeric and Tequila mic, Christy Whitman. I'm going to give a little bit about her bio. It's pretty miraculous. And as you know, on Turmeric and Tequila, I let the artist, the creator, the author tell us about themselves. So here's her quick intro. You probably already know her though. Christy Whitman is a transformational leader, celebrity coach, and law of attraction expert, as well as a two-time New York best-selling author of The Art of Having It All and Taming Your Alpha Bitch. She is also the author of the international bestseller, The Desire Factor and Quantum Success. Christy has appeared on the news, the Today Show, the Morning Show, TEDx, and the Hallmark Channel, just to name a few. She's been featured in Goldcast, People Magazine, 17, Woman's Day, Hollywood Life, Teen Vogue, just to name a few of the publications. And she's also the CEO and founder of Quantum Success Learning Academy and Quantum Success Coaching Academy, a 10-month law of attraction coaching certification program. Wow. Well, Christy, you are a busy human being. Manifesting is your cardio, apparently.
Yes. I love it. Manifesting is my cardio. I love it.
Well, welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited. I don't know if you've heard of our show or what, but we have had a host of conversations around the law of attraction. I think in my personal world, it's coming up, and I try to be an intentional human as much as I can. But here we are. So I think something's working. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yes. Well, I just gave, the quick, the LinkedIn, the formal bio, but I love to unpack the human before we get to all the success stories in the life journey. So tell us a little bit about young Christy, how we grew up and how we kind of got to where we are today.
Well, born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona. I had an upper middle class family, and my mom and dad had a lot of friends that were wealthy, but they were always in a place of comparison. And nothing was ever enough. And I watched and witnessed my mom, no matter how hard my dad worked or what he accomplished or what he gave her, it was just never enough. And she was always comparing him to her friends and, whatever they had. So I grew up like that. And I didn't realize it didn't feel good. I knew intuitively it didn't feel good, but I didn't know another way of being. And I found myself where this really just hit me in the face, where I graduated from college. I moved to Chicago to start a career, and met and was engaged to a guy that I was about to get married to, obviously, and just found myself really unhappy. And I thought that, and I was kind of raised that if you have all these things, like a check mark, on checkbox, that I would be happy. And so lo and behold, I accomplished everything I wanted to at a very young age. I got a really good career going. I was making money. I was engaged, being married, and I wasn't happy. I was really unfulfilled. And for me, that was a turning point, because it was a real realization that, wait a minute, it's not about accomplishing or achieving something in order to be happy. So if it's not, what is it about? And those questions led me, and this is 25 years ago, those questions led me to break off the engagement, move to Northern California. I started meditating. I met a woman that meditated, because for me, that was 25 years ago, meditation. And I didn't know anybody that did that. I thought it was like a guru guy that sit on top of a mountain that was the only people that meditated. And so when I met my meditation teacher, she said something that absolutely changed my life. And she said, you create your own reality. Now, again, this is not internet time. We weren't hearing this stuff all the time. I'd never heard that before. And yet something in me was birthed and opened up. And what caused then a series of events, because I then asked her, well, how do we create our own reality? And she said, by your thoughts. You're either attracting things to you or repelling things from you based on the way you think. Again, that was one of those moments of the way I think, my thoughts, I thought that my thoughts were real. And so she wanted me to go and just take just an observation trip, for the next week, paying attention to what I was thinking. And I was absolutely shocked because I was very negative. I was very judgmental, critical, condemning, not only of myself, but everybody I knew, drivers on the road, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I was in that place where when I started digging deeper, realized, I'm thinking just like my parents. No wonder it's never enough. And so I started literally attracting to me and started downloading and bringing all this information on universal laws. And one of the universal laws that absolutely changed my life, most people know about law of attraction, is the law of sufficiency and abundance. And what I realized was that my parents still to this day, my mom's 85, dad's 89, they still think in worry, fear based, worst things going to happen. They're very much in the lack perspective. They come from a very like a victim consciousness, like life is happening to them and that they have no control over it. And my life started to change when I literally went from victim consciousness to creator consciousness, from a mindset of lack to a mindset of abundance. And that's really what started everything for me. And about 5 years into practicing this information and applying meditation and energy and all this different stuff, I was married to a really nice guy because I used to attract bad boys. Married to a really nice guy. I had health in my body, probably more fit than I'd ever been, money in the bank, absolutely no debt. I had a great career going on. And I found that moment again of, I'm feeling like I'm missing something. And what I was missing was that feeling of purpose and passion in like what I do in the world, in my, what we call a career, right? The place where I have creative self-expression. And so what I knew was if I'm lacking something, the energy of the opposing opposite of that, so I'm lacking the feeling of purpose and passion, if I just cultivate and follow through and align with the energy of purpose and passion, then even though I don't know what the form is, it'll form itself. And so I started doing that. I started meditating on what it would feel like to be purposeful and passionate. And within a month's time, my first book, Perfect Pictures, downloaded through me at 1:05 in the morning. It was like a voice talking to me. I got up, started doing automatic writing. That happened 7 days in a row. I got the book published. And then I started speaking at spiritual bookstores and churches. This is 20 years ago. So people were asking me to coach them. And I had no idea like I thought football coach, cheerleading coach. I mean, that was like my frame of reference for coaches. And I was one of the first coaches. I mean, to actually start coaching people and earning a living doing it 20 years ago. I always say that, I was coaching before coaching was cool because it was considered very woo-woo. And yet the people that I was coaching, I loved doing it. They were having awesome success. And so I just continued to lean in and followed that path. And I went full time in my coaching business 15 years ago. The Desire Factor is my 7th book. I have certified over 3,000 life coaches. I've created my own absolute having it all experience of life because I've applied these spiritual principles to every aspect of my life. And so I am 15 years married with the love of my life. I have 2 boys and just really grateful for life and that I know what I now know.
Yeah. Well, I really love that. I come from marketing and branding world, and I started Turmeric and Tequila, the podcast, because marketing is essentially a ton of smoke and mirrors, and it's a lot of good, but there's also just a lot of production and storytelling, and that's what it used to be. And nowadays you see our kiddos, our young humans consuming this media all the time. And I kind of lean into original philosophy of reality is nothing more than applied meaning. So their realities are being created off these digital devices that are great for small businesses. It can streamline, so much of our process and promotion and getting a positive message out. But there's also the flip side of that. So I was really about what I call graceful disruption and disrupting it. How did you lean in as a really young person and not having this as part of like your generational narrative? When someone tells you, you create your own reality, what was inside you that like believed it? Because that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, how do I get the kiddos to believe there's a better way?
Yeah, I can't honestly explain that. It was just something that I knew to be true. It just felt like a truth for me. And, I had kind of saw that because when I was living in Chicago, one of the things that I write about in the Desire Factor is that, a couple years before that, I was a smoker and like a heavy smoker. I was a pack and a half a day smoker. And I remember having this epiphany moment when I went shopping with one of my girlfriends. We were, in one of the malls in Chicago, and I saw a Coach purse. And I got so excited about this Coach purse, but I told myself I couldn't have it until I quit smoking, because my image, and it's all subjective, right? It's all like what we think and what we perceive and everything. But in my mind, now I know there are people that smoke that have Coach purses, but in my mind, the people that wore Coach purses are non-smokers. And so for me to reward myself and award myself, to get a Coach purse, I would have to become a non-smoker. And that it really, the desire was a Coach purse, but it's like who I became in the process of attaining that purse, right? And I still haven't, I've been a non-smoker ever since. But what happened in that moment was something that I understood when she said, you create your own reality, because I thought about who I needed to become, and I then became that person. And so I started thinking like a non-smoker. I started feeling my way into what it would feel like to be a non-smoker, and that became what I did. And then the perfect moment came when like the situations all lined itself up where I got the information. I was like, I'm done. And I bought the patch. I did the patch, but I smoked my last cigarette, 27, almost 28 years ago, because I wanted that purse, because I was wanting to become the person that would attain that purse. And so for me, it was when she said, you create your own reality, I had already had that type of reference of, yeah, I just did that. Right. And I don't know how I did that, but I knew how powerful that was by shifting my thoughts and shifting my energy. Literally, it was like shifting my persona. I was no longer a smoker. I now embodied being a non-smoker. And so that kind of was evidence for me that I already did that. And intuitively, I already knew how. So I already saw the evidence before I found out that we do create our own reality.
Do you think that skill set is innately, or the intuition I know everybody has, is just, if we choose to lean into it, but do you think that skill set, kind of like that reframing the mindset, once the way you digest it makes sense to you, do you think that's within everybody?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, every single person has the ability to bring in energy and to shift. It's kind of like, watching a TV, right? And you have your remote control and you're like, I don't want to be on that channel anymore. I want to go watch Friends, or something else, right? And we all have that ability to change that energetic channel, because that's what I did. I changed the channel of being a smoker and all that implied to being a non-smoker and all that implied. And it's literally like shifting and changing that within ourselves. Because when you think about it, all anybody ever has, we all have free will, but all we ever have free will about is our consciousness. And what is our consciousness? It's what we say, what we think, what we perceive, what we feel, and then the actions, behaviors, habits that we do, right? And so when you understand that, okay, I'm coming from lack in the way I'm thinking right now, I have the ability to change that thought into a thought that feels better, right? Or I could say more words that are more empowering. Instead of saying I can't do something, say I can do something. We all have that ability to do that. And the more that we practice it, the more we become self-actualized, and the more that we really get to know ourselves and pay attention to ourselves, then we have more control to apply it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And again, kind of leaning towards our kiddos. I'm here for our adults as well. But you look at, I don't know, you can argue nature or nurture. You see our Western culture and you see what's happening in our school curriculums or what's happening at homes. I didn't grow up in a space where we were a religious family. We were all very much athletes. So Sunday, like sports was our church. And that's what we did. But there was a little mindset with that as far as like visualization with sports, like winning a game or kicking a goal or whatever. But the conscious mindset around getting to know yourself, your core values, understanding what you want and, what you care about, like truly within your heart. It's still kind of a new conversation. However, again, the upside of the internet is young people can seek out these kinds of conversations and start to question a better way earlier on and kind of navigate that space of like that, the breakdown or breakthrough of getting to a more conscious space. Do you think it's more a question of like getting into the homes or getting into the schools as far as shaping this mindset earlier?
I think it's actually both. I mean, because when you think about, a child, right, they're just so ripe with, like they're like a sponge, and who influences them is the caregivers in the home, the parents usually, because sometimes it can be aunts, uncles, grandparents, and then it's their school, right? So what philosophies are they learning in school? And like, is the school just teaching the basics of math and history and those kind of things? Or are they bringing in the conversation of mindfulness? My kids, for example, go to a Montessori, and it's great because they talk about mindfulness, and they have them do a couple minutes of just centering and meditation. And they'll have them, as much as my kids just absolutely hate it, they'll have them do yoga a little bit in the morning. And, but it's good because it's teaching them to center themselves. And, even the things that they do, like you're saying, sports. I mean, sports has such a great ability to teach kids about, how to cooperate and how to get along and work with others. And, you might have something that you make a mistake with. And if you beat yourself up the rest of the time you're on the field or doing whatever it is, you're going to be in a negative place where you're not going to show up and play well. But if you just let that last play go and you show up in your presence and you then go, it's like, I'm seeing that with my own kids where, they go to a great school. They've got parents that are very conscious. We've been teaching about universal laws and law of attraction, how to master their energy, how to process their emotions, all of that. And yet they're gaining so much from the sports too. So it's really the activities also. It's really the entire, if you think of it as a bubble, it's like, what is their bubble and what's influencing them inside of that bubble? Are they being influenced by friends and video games? And if so, that's great. But what are the values that it's teaching them? What are they learning how are they learning to live on a daily basis? And if parents can start to help even teach them meditation, not for hours upon hours, even if it's just 2 minutes to just, breathe and feel themselves and process their emotions, everybody's so much better off.
Yeah. That sphere of influence, I think, is a really good point, which you said. It's everything kind of collectively coming in to our brains or into our environment, impacting obviously like our thoughts and our actions moving forward. And I always argue, like, I want to get to these, but I also, on the flip side, think all things come in due time. So it's like this juxtaposition of putting the word out there and then also knowing, like, would I have listened to as a 12-year-old, even if my parents were super, super into certain things? I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm someone that I think a lot of like my type A's, like, we have to go through deep breakdown and breakthrough to be like, okay, now I'm here and we're catching on. I liked one of your quotes. You said, I was outwardly successful, but inwardly trapped until I decided to make a change. And coming off the conversation of our young people, I think in 2021, coming off 2020, a lot of our parents, or I'll say, dare I say, I just turned 40, our middle-aged humans are kind of at this point where maybe we've had corporate jobs or we're looking for a change. We're at that breakthrough point, and we're questioning a better way. What do you had like a message come straight to you and you listened. What do you think is a good step one for somebody that's in it, that's like, okay, I hear this podcast. What is a good step one to make this change?
First of all, connecting with your desires. I mean, that's why, the Desire Factor is such a powerful book now more than ever, because there has been so much of, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do this and you can't go here and you have to wear this and you can't, there's so much of that feels like our freedom has been taken away and our choices have been taken away. And so it's breaking out of that and saying, okay, wait, I'm going to give myself permission again to dream and to desire, because desires are the birthplace of all creation and nothing happens until there's a desire. And so a lot of times people get numb where they're just like, ugh, I'm going along. And especially if you get into a rut, like a lot of people got into in 2020, it was like, they stopped being creative. They stopped asking themselves, what do I desire? What do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to have? What lights me up? Because those desires, when you start asking those questions, we start to receive desires, and those desires get us excited, right? It moves energy through us. And then we start the creation process. And so giving ourselves permission to really sit with ourselves and asking, what do I want in this next phase of my life? As I wrote in my one book, The Art of Having It All, it's like, from decade to decade, from, moment to moment, things change. And we get to decide in all aspects of our life, what do I want to have? in the aspect of my well-being in my body, what I want it to look like, what I want it to feel like. Do I want to challenge myself by going and hiking the Grand Canyon or running a marathon? What do I want to do physically in my body? For my finances, am I good with where I'm at, or what's the next level for me? Do I want to create that? How do I want to feel with my finances? And you look into your career. Am I really loving what I'm doing for a living? And if not, what am I perceiving that I'm missing? Right. And then feeling that energetic connection like I did. I felt I was a pharmaceutical rep. I'd always desired to do that. I was making great money. And then I found myself going, is this it? Like if I get a headache, I take peppermint oil, so for me, I felt out of alignment trying to have doctors prescribe more of this medication because I wouldn't even do that for myself. So it was like, I want to be on purpose, and I want to feel passionate about what I'm doing. So that birthed the new desire. So we have to remember that life is going to cause contrast, meaning things that we don't want, or we become aware of things that we don't appreciate. And in that, we can take that contrast of what we don't want and ask ourselves three things. What do I want? Why do I want it? And then how do I want to feel? Because we always want something because we think that if I get it, I'm going to feel a certain way. If we can just identify what's the feeling state that we think we're lacking in and feel that, whether it's passion, purpose, freedom, joy, security, support, whatever it is, start to cultivate that feeling. Well, now we draw more experiences to us.
Very well said. And I love how you talk about, fears, trauma, and letting go. I think that's three really big things. And you talk a lot about that in a few of your books, or probably all of them, in that process. But I think sometimes you have to clear that stuff up to get to what you really want. Do you think that that process happens like collectively, or do you think it's like you got to unpack some stuff before you really know what you want?
It's always ongoing. It's a constant. We're always in a state of transition, whether it's from this moment to this moment, or from, a relationship to not, or a new job. There's always you get to know yourself when you attract something and you are wrestling around with it, or relating with it. You get to know more of what you like and what you don't like. And that's the beauty of getting older, is right. I'm 50 now, and it's like I'm clear of what I want to spend my time on, and I'm clear on what I don't want to spend my time with, because I know what lights me up. I know the people I want to be around. I know what I want to create, what gives me juice and what doesn't. And so it's a constant involvement of learning with ourselves, and saying no to the things that don't work, letting go of the resistant and the old past, imprints and traumas that come up. I mean, the thing to know, and here's the beauty about desires, is that wherever you are in your life, when you make a desire, when you create a desire, there's a gap between where you are, the absence of it, and you having it. And the beauty of it from a vibrational perspective is that we have to become more of ourselves in order to attain that next place or that next thing that we want to do. But while we're trying to be a match to it, whatever is unconscious or trauma or blocking or bushwhacks or any of those kind of things, they come up in order for us to look at it, in order to release it, so that we can become more of who we really are. And so it's always a letting go and then moving forward, a letting go and moving forward. And I don't know anybody, and I know a lot of, I coach NFL players. I mean, I coach professional dancers and, movie stars and celebrities of all kinds, to housewives, right? I mean, it's a big range. Every single person, no matter where they are on their journey, always will have some form of unconsciousness come up in order to be released. But the thing is that most people, because they don't have practical tools, it comes up and it blocks them and stops them because they have that as a memory, or they have that as, ooh, I don't want to do that again, instead of releasing that in order to become something better, different, more.
It's funny because I coached for 10 years out of high school, and I was a varsity head coach at a high school here. And I would hear my kiddos as they graduate and still kept touching them at like 25, 26, like, I'm just so late for this. I haven't accomplished all the things. And then my 20 and 30-year-olds are like, I'm too late to make a change or whatever. And then 30, 40, we're kind of like, man, should I be pivoting right now? It's kind of like, do you hear, I feel like I'm too late a lot?
Yeah, I feel I hear it on both ends. I'm too young to do this. Am I too
Okay.
young? Is it too, and I hear, is it too late? And that's just the thing, is that there are remarkable human beings that have done things later in life. I mean, there, like, there's who is it? The chef, Julia. Oh,
I
she
want to
always had the
miles, but that's not true.
she always had that funny voice. She started creating cookbooks later in life, like when she was in her late 50s.
Oh,
Julia
Julia Childs.
Childs. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We should,
Yeah.
I know. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you think about, the people that have done incredible things later in life. I mean, even just if you think about Stan Lee, who created all of the Marvel movies, I mean, he started doing that later in life in his like 50s. So it's never too late to do what you love. It's never too late to start connecting with your divine part of you. It's never too late to create desires. I mean, it's like, and it's never over either. It's not like, oh, well, I didn't do it. It's like, no, every moment is a fresh new moment to push the reset button, to get clear on what you want and move in that direction. It doesn't matter what our age is.
Right. Well, I think we kind of grow up with this idea of life is short, like you got to pack it in. And then I heard a friend say life is long, and I'm like, you're right. And Hoda Kotb is one of my favorite humans. She's on the Today Show. She adopted kids after 50, is going to get married after 50, and is got her career, change after. I mean, so many marvelous things. And she's such a bright light. If you're a fan or not, you can watch her 5 minutes and you can just feel the energy. And she's a phenomenal example of that. And if I can reflect on 40 years, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much I didn't know at 20. There's no way I was prepared to, question these alternative ways of living at that time. So I'm with you as I get older. I appreciate things, and there's no part of me that would go back to my 21-year-old self. Although those were great days, we're here for the here and now. I do want to talk.
So two things I just want to say about that. Yeah. So Hoda interviewed me when I was on the Today Show, and she is such a bright light, and she's amazing, and she's such an inspiration that it doesn't matter what age you are. So I wanted to just touch on that. And second of all, it's funny, as you look at, you're 40, I'm 50, right? You can look back and go, God, it went so fast. But then you look back and go, but there was so much that I did and experienced. So it's both and. It goes fast, and there's a lot of life that is lived in, and it doesn't go fast, right? So it's both and.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Have you gotten good about being present? Like, I know obviously you're deeply skilled in it, but is it something you constantly have to practice?
All the time. All of us do, because here's why, is that, books like Be in the Now and all that, in Buddhists saying just be in the now, all there is the now. Well, really, there isn't just the now, because our minds are always cycling between our past, our present, and our future. Our minds literally are constantly scanning, like, ooh, what am I going to do for lunch? What did I have for dinner last night? Ooh, where do I want to go on vacation? Well, last time I went there. It's doing this cycle. But what happens is we can't stay in the present if our past is pulling us to say, ooh, don't do that. Oh, that's going to fail. Oh, you did that last time. Oh, you trusted yourself in love. And you've got these energetic imprints that are warning you, right? It's hard to stay in the present moment when you've got the past that is pulling you because of the energy imprints. And then it's also hard to stay in the present when you are projecting into a future that doesn't look bright. If you're projecting into a future where you don't have what you want, and you're experiencing shortage, and it's fearful and it's scary, it's very hard to stay present, because you want to leave yourself because it's uncomfortable as you look towards your future. So really the true way to be present is that when the stuff from the past come up, you release it and clean it up. When you're thinking about projecting into your future about any desire you may have, you're in alignment with that desire, and you're not letting shortage or lack consciousness dictate what you're going to create. So it's being in the presence with feeling good about your past and excited about your future.
I need to put that on loop and just have that clip readily available at all times so I can get back into the moment, because it's such a cycle, and it's, even when you're good about it, I don't know, I've just found it's a constant practice. So I'm glad to hear that the experts are in it as well. That gives me a little more faith. You touched
100%.
on the correlation between all things are energy, but your mental and your physical. I think people are so disconnected that when your mind's out of alignment, it'll physically show up in your body, meaning injury or cancer or headaches. And I applaud all things essential oils, of course. I'm here for Western medicine to a T, because I think there's a time and place. But how much has the physical, or I should say, has it at some point, have you physically been broken down that's helped you bring to a breakthrough, like some sort of illness or anything that's like, oh, this is energetically connected?
Yes. When I turned 45, all of a sudden, all the things that I was normally doing in my life no longer were working. I gained 20 pounds, and it was like I wasn't eating any differently. I was working out the same way. I felt constantly tired. I was moody. I mean, my mood swings would be like up and down. And my husband was like, "What is happening with you?" And the Western medicine doctors would say, "Oh, you're 45, your hormones, you're perimenopausal. So that's just the way it is. And now that you're this age, you're going to have to work out more, or eat less, because, now you're going to continue to gain weight." And I went, "No, that's not happening." And within less than a year's time, I completely healed. When I did go get blood work and all that kind of stuff, my thyroid was completely shot. I mean, I had just the estrogen and the testosterone. I mean, everything was just shot. And I was able to literally level things out. I am 50 and healthier than I've ever been. And another thing, and just this brings up, is that when I had kids, I was 38 and 39, almost 40 when I had my two boys. And what happened was, and I would hear this from everybody that was a parent: "Oh, now that you're a mom, you're going to get sick all the time." And I was like, what, why? And even though I didn't have my kids in like a daycare, so to speak, I would go to the gym, and there would be a gym daycare, and there wasn't a lot of children in there, but they would get sick, right? They had the runny noses, and then I would get it 10 times worse. So I got to a point where it was like, I constantly was sick every single month. I would get better and then get another cold. And I remember what really hit me is we were about to go on a Disney cruise, and everybody was well, right? And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's just keep everybody well." And there was a little girl that came into the daycare like 2 days before we were about to leave for our trip. And I was like, and she had a runny nose. And I'm like, if that little girl, I was so like, if that little girl gets my children sick, I'm going to be mad. Well, what happened is they got sick. And then I am literally getting on the ship, hacking and coughing and all this stuff. And I went, wait a minute. I've been focused on, oh my God, and a lot of people have been doing that with the pandemic. Like, oh, I got to, keep myself away from all of these bad germs. And I became a germaphobe and, freaking out about, oh my God, that kid's got a running nose. Let's stay, 50 feet away from that person. It became more of a shift of, wait a minute, if I have a strong immune system and I am in well-being energetically, I can be around a little snotty-nosed kid and I won't get sick. And that mindset shift completely shifted, so much so that I started doing things like getting acupuncture every 2 weeks to increase my immune system, right? I was just totally focused on, I am well. And now it's amazing, knock on wood, anytime the kids or my husband get sick, I still have total full well-being. I haven't been sick in years because I am focused totally on what I do have control of. And that is my consciousness completely and totally aligning with well-being. Even when the pandemic hit, people were freaking out, right? I'm like, if I get it, I know that I'm going to be in full well-being and my body will it will work it out. And I could be around it and not even get it because I vibrate in full well-being. And that is just the truth. That's my commitment. That's my decision.
I love that. That is such an important conversation, particularly in 2021, when we are trying to take hold of not just our lifestyle, our career, our choices, but our health. And the conversation is so separate and it's so not. And it's unfortunate that these kind of conversations, or even that question, is like, oh, like people hear this and like, oh my God, you're right. I think back to like the worst part of my life and I was the sickest, or I got injured, or something, it threw me off, and I had to like unpack that mindset. So thank you for sharing that. Because again, I think it's such a really important conversation. Shifting a little bit. So we're on book number 7. You've covered, I think, main themes of just human optimization is kind of my background. So I'll say human optimization, generally speaking. Why the desire factor now? And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it was interesting because all of my books come through as like a download. And so I don't go to just write a book. I don't go, oh, it's perfect time to write a book on desires, right? It's like it literally comes through me and I need to write about it. And this one was different because it came in waves. And the first wave, it's, I don't know why this always happens, but when I'm on a cruise ship, this always happens. But I happened to be on a cruise ship. I was in the middle of the Mediterranean. I was on this cruise ship with my mom and my dad, my husband and my two boys. I gifted everybody a trip, first class, right? Just amazing accommodations. And we had just gotten back on the ship from Venice, Italy. And I was unwrapping a bag from Dolce & Gabbana, a purse. And I was appreciating this purse. And I was reflecting as I'm holding this purse, I'm reflecting on, again, who I became in the process of being there on that ship holding this purse. Because what you don't know is about 8 years probably prior to that, I think it was maybe 7 or 8 years, I went on a trip with my husband and my mom and dad to Italy. And one of the places that we went to Venice. And I've always been a fashion girl. I love fashion. I've always, like when I was a little girl, I just loved dressing up. So here we get to Venice. And I thought literally I found like the, fashion capital of the world. I mean, store after store after store, stores I've never seen before. It was just crazy, right next to each other. Dolce & Gabbana and Fendi and Gucci and Chanel and Versace. And, it just went on. And I was like a hummingbird, going in each of those stores. And my husband, boyfriend at the time, was looking at me and he's like seeing these high-end purses and high-end stuff. And he goes, I don't think I can afford you. Now, keep in mind, I had just started my coaching business. I left corporate America. So I was just starting out in my coaching business full time. And when he said, I don't think I can afford you, I said, you don't have to. I'll afford myself. And I declared right there, I am going to make tremendous amount of money while I create massive impact. And someday, as a matter of fact, I'm going to come back to Venice and I'm going to go in any single store that I want to, and I'm going to buy whatever I want to. Right? Because just because I'm going to have the freedom of that success to do that. So here I was back on this cruise ship, had a day with my husband where like a hummingbird went into all those stores. I didn't even pick the most expensive thing. I just found the one that called to me and I loved it. And so we had this great day having pasta and just having this incredible experience. And here I'm holding this bag, reflecting on this amazing journey of what that desire created. And I hear a voice that says, that's so materialistic. And I'm like, where did that come from? Well, it was my sister's voice because my sister never got the fun stuff of materiality, right? It's like there is material things. There's cars. If we're going to go from point A to point B, why not drive a car you love? If you're going to live in a house, why not live in a house that just you feel so beautiful, like you just love it. You feel like it's your sanctuary, right? Material things are ours to enjoy while we're in the physical experience. And so for me, holding this beautiful purse and having this amazing experience and reflecting on who I became and, the generosity of all that I've created and the impact, that negative voice came in and said, you're so materialistic. And then that created literally this conversation about nothing here on planet Earth is not spiritual. It wouldn't exist if it didn't. Everything's spiritual. Even the material stuff is spiritual because it's created first by energy. Nothing is created without energy, and all energy is divine. So it's embracing the wholeness and the oneness of all the things that we want to experience and stop judging ourselves for wanting something, whether it's making more money or living in the bigger house or, traveling to beautiful places the way you want to travel, whether it's first class, 5-star, whatever. And that just kind of downloaded through me and then it paused. And then I started full on channeling the quantum council of light, as I talk about in the desire factor. And then it started revving up again because the council who I channel had, a step-by-step process in order to create your desires. And so that's what this book is. It's based on 7 principles to have us understand that co-creative relationship between that desire to have a purse, so many years ago, to become more of who I am, like the smoking, like the Coach purse. All of it's a journey. And those in material things, desires that we have are like spiritual breadcrumbs that help us grow and expand. And so that's why it took a little bit of like phases, but when it came through, it's perfect timing for this conversation, because so many people have closed off to their desires. And so many people have started to believe that I shouldn't want anything. I should just be happy with what I have. Well, be happy with what you have, but get excited for more. That's the perfect formula.
Yes, I love it so much. And you put this on the cover, how to embrace your materialistic nature to reclaim your full spiritual power. And that really says it, because I do think there's such negative ties to wanting more. And furthermore, knowing that you deserve it. That's a really hard thing to conceptualize and be like, yeah, I know I deserve it. I deserve it. And this is something I still unpack myself of like, well, you want certain things and I'm okay for all the nice things. And I love that you went from Coach to Chanel or Fendi or whatever the next level up was. Perhaps someday you might even design your own bag, because this is coming up like at different points in life. So I'll just put that out to the universe. You never know.
I'd love to. I would love to. I just love fashion.
Come to TNT, because I'm actually leaning into fashion and whatnot. This is a whole other podcast, but we're here for all things fashion. So holler at your girl. But how do you convince somebody, or what is the conversation where you really get people to understand that they deserve this or deserve their desires?
Well, all of us are an extension of universal energy. We're all an extension of the divine. I mean, when we pass, we talked about how life is long and quick at the same time. We all know that eventually we're all going to have an expiry date, right? Like our passport's going to expire and we're going to go back into non-physical, at least the life part of us, and the rest of us is a shell that will either get cremated or buried into the earth, right? It's like we know this. Well, what's animating all of us is the life. It's energy. And it's not just in us, it's out of us, it's around us, it's creative, it's energy. And when we understand that we are co-creating, and there's stuff that the divine does that we don't have to do. We don't have to sit here and beat our hearts. I mean, none of us have to go, okay, let me make sure my heart is beating. It's being done for us, just like breathing. We could take our own breaths. We can't beat our own heart. We can make our heart rate higher or lower, right? If we run a mile or whatever, do physical activity. But the ultimate beating of the heart is our co-creative life partner that is literally doing that for us. It's literally pulsating blood through every part of our body. We don't have to do that. We don't have to digest our food. When a woman gets pregnant, when I was pregnant with my two boys, I wasn't like, okay, I gotta create an arm today. It's like all that's being done. And when we can lean into that invisible but very real part, we start to know that, that part of us is not like that. I had to get over this, that religious God symbol that sits on a cloud, almost like Santa Claus, that looks and goes, okay, she did good today, she gets a check mark. Oh, she did bad, she gets coal in her stockings. God, the God source is not like that. The divine God, all that is, loves us unconditionally, adores us, wants more for us than we want for ourselves. We're all divinely designed for well-being and success and love and abundance and all good things. We're here to thrive and to feel good. And as we start to understand that and move into that, then we know that we're important, we're deserving, we're valuable, that we're enough, and that really all is well.
Very well said. That's the other loop that I'm going to maintain it and keep on play. You mentioned your two young boys, and I love that you talked about being a mom later in life. I think that's huge. I've actually had 5 friends that have recently had kids past 40, and it's becoming more of a norm. Do you think there is a good time to start these conversations with our kiddos, or do your boys read the desire factor? Like, when did you start to introduce this higher conscious thought conversation to your kiddos?
Before they were even born. I was doing meditations with them, having these conversations. The conversation is energetic before it actually becomes a word kind of thing. So while they're in the womb, I meditated. I got Reiki treatments. I was making sure that my energy was a really good host for them and that they had a really good environment to be in. And even when they were little, many years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago now, my husband and I created a program that's no longer available, but it was a physical program called the Enlightened Kid Program. And in that, we had affirmations, and they're like little posters that we put above their cribs. And every night when we put them to bed, we would say affirmations to them. You are valuable. You are powerful. You are free. You are good. You are loved. All is well. And then when they started being able to talk, it's actually so adorable. When my son Alex was about a year and a half and he could speak, he'd be like, I am free. I am good. He started then, instead of us saying you are, he started bringing it in that I am good. I am love. And when they would, perfect example, if my son Alex got jealous of his younger brother Max and hit him or tried to pull something from him, we would talk about law of attraction. You're going to get what you give back. So if you're generous and loving, you're going to get that back. And we would, talk about these kind of things. When my son was, I think he was about 5 years old, my oldest son, Alex, he got his heart broken, right? He had this crush on a little girl. It starts so early. And he got his heart broken. And I just sat there with him and I said, cry every tear. Allow yourself to just cry every tear. Let the energy move through you, right? Connect more with the energy that you want. If they get hurt, we're talking about bring in that light healing energy. Your body just knows well-being. I do healings for them. And I've actually started doing healings for some of the kids on the soccer teams. If they get hurt, I'll come over and go, you want a healing? And they're like, yeah, So it's been a conversation that they've just been with since day one. And it will always continue because that's how we live our lives.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see what they're doing in 20 years. As you're telling this, I'm thinking like, this is not what my parents did. In fact, I actually remember my mom being like, yeah, we knew we were going to go into labor. So I took a shot of whiskey. And I'm like, well, maybe this was your manifestation of my world now. I don't know. My parents were phenomenal. It was the 80s, folks. So, it was a whole different set of health and wellness.
My mom took Valium when she was pregnant with me. And I'm like, it's a wonder, really. Yeah.
It's all gonna be okay. But the intentional, I'm genuine when I say I'm really excited to see their pursuits in their world, because they're equipped with these skill sets so early on. 5 to have your heart broken that's pretty young. So he is going to have a massive set of skills to maintain really successful relationships, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing. Someone asked me yesterday, is it more exciting to see them succeed or you succeed? And I said, it's way more exciting to see them succeed. And as a matter of fact, like, they're both thriving in their lives. We just literally got their report cards from school, and they're both all A and Bs, and they've got lots and lots of friends, and they're likable, and they're succeeding on their soccer teams. And, Maxim, I'm just like such a proud mama, because he went into a soccer camp last week for Real Madrid, which is, one of the major professional European soccer teams. And he was asked and picked out by among those players that were there at the soccer camp to go and train with Real Madrid coaches and players next spring. And it's like, whether we go or not, just the fact that he was asked is such an honor. So I see them thriving in their lives. I see the presence and the light in them. And, I just see them in all aspects of their life. They're healthy, they're into fitness, they eat well. I mean, they're just good-hearted human beings. And that just thrills me beyond anything, because I know that it's, the relationship that I have with my husband and myself. This is one of my biggest things, is that my mom and dad, they've been married 65 years. They're in their 80s. They do not have a good relationship. They've never been respectful to each other. They've never known how to communicate. It's actually very abusive emotionally and mentally, and at some points have been physically. And I knew as a small kid, I used to beg my mom when I was a kid, and I was about 7 years old, divorce him. And she would say, well, what am I going to do? Because, women back then, they relied on their husbands. They didn't have careers. They didn't believe in themselves to make money. And for me to create the family that I've created and the relationship with my husband, so that my kids grow up in an environment where they see us hug and kiss, and they see us flirt, and they see us communicate. We might not always agree on the same thing, but they see us communicate so that we come to a common understanding. And I'm just for everything I've accomplished in my life so far, that is the best gift I've ever given them. And I'm so grateful that I know what I know, and I've transformed myself enough to be able to give that gift to them.
What a wonderful message. I just the fact of our past doesn't have to be our future. What we grew up with doesn't have to be the way we're going to be lovers or parents or show up in a relationship. And again, these are things I'm learning. So perhaps this whole interview is just for me to be like, it's okay. Like, you're in it. And but when you talk about your parents, I'm a product of divorce. My parents actually now have a great relationship, and I idolize so much of their world. But again, these conscious conversations, the skill sets, the tools, just the mindset, none of that was there. And I have faith that at some point it might be with them. But the narrative I've had to unpack over the years. So I hope people listening to this can say, that's not what I came from. And it's also not where I'm going. And you can shift that around. I think you already answered my next question. What is success to you right now? Like, what's exciting after all these goals and accomplishments, fabulous kiddos, fam, husband? What are you excited about?
You know, I'm excited about a lot of things, but success to me is just that absolute feeling of fun and joy on a daily basis, because I know that it's the feeling of being so joyful, and you know, contrast happens. I have things that happen, but it's having those processes and tools to be able to get past the contrast, to be able to then return back into alignment. And that for me is success. That for me is really having it all, knowing that things are going to happen in the world. Things are going to happen. I'm going to get news. You know, I'm going to hear someone died or something happened. You know, someone's going to be rude. Someone's going to say something. Someone's going to have an opinion. But to be able to really neutralize that within myself so that I'm finding and creating that joy, so that I can continue to have, you know, joyful moments with my kids and in my business, with my clients, with my husband. You know, that for me is success.
Very well said. I ask everybody on the show, turmeric is my chill and tequila is my thrill. What's your chill and what's your thrill?
Well, my chill is definitely meditation and doing light work. And my thrill is just, you know, watching my boys play like sports, you know, watching them succeed. I do different thrills, like we're going to go to hike the Grand Canyon, you know, so those are different thrills that I have as well. So
I love that. Is there one piece of advice that you have heard over the years, and I know you've spoke with incredible humans, and that has really stuck with you, that has helped kind of guide your journey?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, really, it was that first moment of hearing that you create your own reality, because I go back to that all the time, that no matter if I'm pushing up against something in my world, I get to go, wait, I create my own reality. Like the example that I gave with me getting sick all the time is like, wait a minute, I'm not creating my own reality. I'm being a victim to this. So I create my own reality. Therefore, I can create my well-being. I can create my finances. I can create my success. I could create my loving relationship. Because I create my reality, I get to decide and flow with that energy. And I'm in the power seat. I get to be the one responsible instead of a victim to.
You're creating your reality. I really hope people hear this. And again, if you're at that breakthrough point, know that you have the power to make the step forward and change things into what you want them to be, and chase all the materialistic dreams, because they're not a bad thing either.
Chris, they're fun.
Yes. Christy's handbags are coming at you. Be ready. Where do we find you? And I'm going to keep within about 4 more minutes, but tell us a little bit about where we find you and the council, which I'm super intrigued about.
Yes. So the council are ascended masters. It's like high vibration consciousness that comes in, and my consciousness goes out. So they come in, and you can see on my YouTube channel, I have lots of videos with the council. I have my eyes closed and I sound like I have a British accent. So and the energy is very, very different. It looks like my body, but it doesn't look like me. So they're really here to teach, for all of us to be energy masters of our lives. So I have a YouTube channel. You can go to ChristyWhitman.com. I have an amazing free program called Watch Your Words. That is a 30-day video program that's between 2 and 4 minutes each day, that tells you the word or phrase you absolutely want to eliminate from your consciousness, why, and then what to say instead, because that's part of our consciousness is our words, and words create everything. Words are the beginning of creation. So you go to watchyourwords.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere.
we'll list all your handles. And I do have to give a shout out. Your YouTube page is incredible. And I don't casually say this. I'm dipping into YouTube. We're working there. But it's a new medium. There's 5,000 mediums now. Yours is very, very well done. So shout out to that. That's a very big deal.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I love what you're doing. Please check out Christy. The books are phenomenal. The energy is wonderful. I love what you're putting into the world. I'm so deeply gracious that we have a universe now that is consuming these talk points and this conversation. I think as all things are, it's right on time and major shifts are happening. So I'm glad to hear you are a human at the forefront of it, kind of leading the way.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll catch up soon. Check out Christy. I'll put all her handles down below. Like I said, the YouTube page is phenomenal. That's a great place to start. But Christy, I'd love to check in again down the road and somehow kind of keep in touch. And I will say, if you see Hoda before me, I'm manifesting it. Please tell her I said hello.
I will. I love it.
Thank you so much. Have an awesome rest of the day.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.